y'all. Welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. Thank you, Jesus. It is another beautiful day to be in the kitchen. Now, part 2 of my All About Pies fall series, where I'm doing a new take on a classic favorite pie. And today we are doing pumpkin pie cheesecake. Yes, we're gonna mix cheesecake and pumpkin pie all together in one delicious pie with spices, sugar, pie crust, and it's gonna be yummy and delicious and a new take on a classic favorite. That is what is coming up next, so stay tuned. Now, a pumpkin pie cheesecake pie, which, by the way, you can do sweet potato, you can do, any of those kind of pies. You don't have to do pumpkin. I happen to be doing pumpkin today, but you don't have to do pumpkin. Personally, I love sweet potato, but we're doing pumpkin today. The only thing that is so different from a traditional pumpkin pie is we're not using any butter, and we're not using any, the pumpkin is really going to be kind of not plain, but it's not going to be like with all of the normal ingredients that you would put in a pumpkin pie, which would be milk, butter. You put melted butter. You may or may not add a bit of flour to help stabilize it. We're not doing all of that, but the core elements of a pumpkin pie is still going to be here. What I mean by that is we'll add the traditional pumpkin pie spices. I have some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some ginger. I like to add some black pepper to my pumpkin pie, but I didn't add it today because I'm doing a pumpkin pie cheesecake, and I kind of didn't think pepper and cheesecake was appropriate. So, but if you want to go ahead, add pepper in your cheesecake, go ahead and by all means add a nice, just a little pinch of black pepper. You never add much anyways, only like 1/8 of a teaspoon. And to that, I have 2 bricks of softened full fat cream cheese. Don't use low fat cream cheese. You can get away with it, but just know the texture won't be quite as rich. I have 1 can of, this is pure pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix. I have some Greek yogurt. I have some powdered sugar. And then I have some regular granulated sugar. Now, I've got 2 different sugars for 2 different things because this 2 different fillings is going to be blended together. So the powdered sugar goes into the cheesecake part of the cheesecake pie. Powdered sugar helps to stabilize a cheesecake and prevent it from breaking in a lot of cases. It also would help to stabilize the filling. Some recipes use granulated sugar and then add some flour. But I want to keep this filling gluten-free, and my powdered sugar is gluten-free. If you don't have powdered sugar, you can use all granulated sugar and just use about maybe 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. You don't want to use much though, so maybe 2 tablespoons might be too much. I would say 1.5 tablespoons ought to be fine. The Greek yogurt goes into the cheesecake mix. And then I have 2 eggs. That goes into the cheesecake mix. So the only thing that goes into the pumpkin part of the pie is the granulated sugar and the spices. And that's all for the pumpkin part. The rest of it, the eggs, the sour cream, the Greek yogurt, the powdered sugar, goes in with the cream cheese. Now, speaking of sour cream, if you don't have Greek yogurt, you can use sour cream. I am a Greek yogurt person. I'm not a fan of sour cream. I'm a yogurt person. By the way, I have a recipe to show you how to make yogurt from scratch. It's very simple, very easy, very cheap. And I say cheap because it literally is. It only the cost of the milk is what you pay. The rest of it, you have loads of yogurt, and you just put it in the pot and watch the video. Show you how to do it. Now, one thing you do want to know. Yes, that's my oven. I'm making 2 pies. So I have 1 pie crust here, and then I have another one. What I want to say, if my oven will stop screaming, I'm going to say this really, really quickly. You want to make sure that you blind bake your pie about 5 to 6 minutes longer than you normally would because you want to make sure the pie itself is well baked, the crust, and also this pie is going to bake at a lower temperature. So you want to make sure that crust has got a good head start. Now, let me go and grab the other pie crust. So back to the pie crust. You want to make sure that it's not completely baked, but baked a little more than just a traditional pie crust that you would blind bake it, because you don't want it to be soggy. These pies bake at 335 degrees. That is very low temperature compared to the 350 you normally would do. So you want to make sure the crust has got a good head start, and you never want a gummy, gluey pie with a terrible crust that would ruin the whole pie. So just give it just a few extra minutes until you can tell it's completely dry looking and it doesn't look wet anymore. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get started on my cheesecake part. Now I'm going to be doing this in a food processor. A food processor just goes a lot faster, a lot smoother, and there's no mixing and beating and all of that, especially if your cream cheese is not at 100% room temperature. You can get some lumpy clumpiness, and you don't want to over mix it to remove the lumps. So a food processor does a nice job. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my cream cheese into the food processor. Never have a good time opening these packages. By the way, don't use tub or whipped cream cheese. They're not made for baking. So this is messy. I knew it was going to be messy. Going down in there. Go down, down, down. Yeah, there we are. Okay. It is rather messy. Okay, second pack goes in. If you were doing one pie, you would just you would just cut this in half, perhaps. You don't want a skimpy pie. Nobody wants a skimpy pie. Okay, this is going to be messy again. Okay, very messy, very untidy. Okay, let's see if I can clean that up. I don't like untidy, messy cooking areas. I just don't. It's one of my pet peeves. One of them. Okay, so the cream cheese is in. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the Greek yogurt. The Greek yogurt is added because it balances out the flavor. You got a lot in here that doesn't have very much acid, although cream cheese is acidic, but it's not that kind of acidic. When you add the sugar to it, it kind of disappears to a great degree. You want to maintain the acidity without sugar. So that's where the Greek yogurt come in. It's way more tangy than cream cheese ever will be. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the powdered sugar. This is going to be... By the way, I want to mention these little bowls. I have two of them. These are handmade I think they come from either Afghanistan or Turkey, one of the two. But they're beautiful, intricate little bowls. And I just like them. I have a green one and I have a red one. And they are handmade by a family. I wish I remember what country. But I don't know if this is unique to the family or unique to the culture. I'm not sure, but they are just beautiful little bowls. And I bought them somewhere. I bought them at a store somewhere, but they are handmade and they're really pretty. They actually are signed on the bottom, but I can't read the signature. I don't know what it says, but they are signed. So they're really nice. And I love something that's made like that. So I have 2 eggs, which I'm just going to crack into this bowl that's already dirty. No need to dirty up another bowl. By the way, this is another piece that I actually bought this at the thrift store, and I suspect it is real. It's not, it's not like it's antique or anything, but it's also not a mass-produced thing. I can tell because of the way it's made. I can tell it's not mass-produced. But I just like collecting these little things. Okay, So add in the eggs and then add in some vanilla bean paste. You could use, I'm going to add in quite a bit of vanilla bean paste. That is like maybe 2 teaspoons. You could use regular vanilla extract. That's perfectly fine. Unless it's something that I don't want the vanilla beans in, I prefer to use vanilla bean paste. And I use it all the time in my regular cooking. Unless it's something that I don't want to see the little specks. But in the cheesecake, I do want to see the little specks. So we add in the vanilla with the little specks. Now I'm going to put this on my food processor and just whiz this up until it's nice and smooth and everything is nicely combined. That's very noisy, so I won't take you along with me for that. But just whiz it up until it's nicely combined and the mixture is nice and smooth and lump-free. And that literally only took a couple of seconds. I might have to give it a little stir because these things always require a little stirring. But I think that I can finish off by hand. Yeah. So you can see the mixture is nice. If I can get in here and avoid the blade. You see how it's nice and smooth and very rich looking. And that's all to this. We don't need to do anything else to this. I'm just going to pour this out into a bowl and then get ready to do the pumpkin part of this pumpkin pie cheesecake or pumpkin cheesecake pie. Yeah, pumpkin cheesecake pie. Okay, so time to do the pumpkin part of the pumpkin filling. So I have just 1 can of plain pumpkin here. Just get it out. I'm not a massive fan of dumping things out of cans. Or no. Not a massive fan. It's not that I'm not a fan. I'm not accustomed to opening a lot of cans of things, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to let you guys in on something that I suspect you already know. Just because it has a pumpkin on the label of this can and it says 100% pure doesn't actually mean that's the kind of pumpkin that's in here. When we think of the word pumpkin, this is the pumpkin that we think of. But it's really, in this can, is a blend of different varieties of pumpkin squashes, such as butternut squash, or there are other kinds of pumpkin squashes that taste very similar to what we think of as pumpkin. We don't know any different because this is all most of the time we know. So if you want to make sure you are really getting pumpkin, grab a pie pumpkin. Now, this is a pie pumpkin. It's a little teeny pumpkin. These are bred for food. You can roast them in the oven. You can steam them in the Instant Pot, and you will have 100% pure pumpkin. Right, now, school is out. Let's add in to the pumpkin mixture. I'm adding in the sugar. Whee! And oh yeah, here's the second bowl that I was talking about earlier. This is the second one. So they're equally pretty, the bowls, but they're slightly different, but they both have a beautiful pattern. This one is not signed on the bottom as this one is. So I don't know, but you can tell it's made by the same people because the design and the way it is very similar. So back to the pumpkin. Adding your spices: ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg, and of course vanilla bean paste. You know, I've got to add vanilla bean paste. I have been on a vanilla bean paste kick for quite some time now. It's not recent, and I just add it because I really think it's good. Plus, you know you're getting real when you get vanilla bean paste. Although I have to say, I like Magnolia Star, but this is not my favorite brand. This is not like my #1 choice, but this is very good. Magnolia Star is a good company, and they make really good products, don't get me wrong. It's just there's another brand of vanilla bean paste that I prefer a little more to that one, to be honest. Magnolia Star, they put out these variations of different extracts, usually in the fall, and they're always so good. But they're limited edition, so if you see them, grab them, because they don't keep the same extracts, the same types of extracts from year to year. So if you see it, grab it, because you might not see it again. Okay, the pumpkin filling is done. All we need to do is combine these two in our pie crust. So I've got my two fillings here. I've got my pumpkin and I've got my cream cheese filling. And I'm just going to combine these in dollops in the pie crust. So I'm going to start off with the pumpkin. Let's just put a dollop around. Try to be fair. Try to be fair. It's not like you're doing the pies harm or anything, but you want to make sure that it's kind of evenly distributed. So in goes some pumpkin and some cheesecake, and we're gonna give this a nice swirl. So don't worry about, whoops, I'm making a mess. Don't worry about you know, we're gonna swirl it, so you don't need to try to swirl it as you work with it. We'll give it a swirl. And then more pumpkin. Okay. And then we'll add more cheesecake. You want to make sure that you kind of stack it a little bit, I guess. There we go. And then a little bit more cheesecake. You don't want to overfill it, but you do want to make sure you get a good bit in there. Like that. And that's good because, as I say, I am making two pies, so I'm just going to reserve the rest of this for the other pie. Looking a little messy now, but now I am going to take, I'll use this, it'll be fine, and I'm just going to, okay, I've got to go wash this. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I've got to go wash it. I'll be right back. Okay, back with a clean spatula, and I'm just going to swirl it together. So there we are. Just give it a swirl. You don't want to overdo it because then it'll just kind of look rather smurfed. So don't overdo it. There we are. And that's good. Right there. Now, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to get on to the second one. Okay, I'm just going to swirl this one. Give it a little swirl. And there we are. There. Right. Now, these are ready. Now, it's funny how these two look totally different. This one, I suspect, the cheesecake is more on top. This one, the pumpkin is more on top. But that's all to do with how you dollop it into the pie crust. Now, this one is gluten-free. This one is not gluten-free. So you can see how you can take the same filling and you can do two different types of pies. And I don't need to worry about cross-contamination because I did not put them together. They're not together. So, and I did not use, that's why I made the one with the gluten-free one first. And then I moved on to this one because you don't want to run the risk of, you know, like back and forth with utensils. So gluten-free is always done first and by itself. That way I know I do not risk it coming in contact with gluten because that would not be good. But now these two beautiful little pies are ready to go into the oven. They're going to bake at 335 degrees. 335 degrees, I'm sorry. They're going to bake for right around, I want to say 50 minutes. A pie like this typically take 50 minutes. It could be 45 minutes. Just start watching them at a 40-minute mark. You don't want to over bake them. Now, I suspect this one is going to take longer to bake than the gluten-free one. Simple reason, in my experience, gluten-free bakes much faster. Haven't quite figured out why, but conventional flour, always recipes take a little bit longer. So this one might take 55 minutes. This one might take 45. But I will keep my eye on them. So into the oven, cheese goes, and we're going to bake them off. All right, the pumpkin pie cheesecake pies. The pumpkin cheesecake pies are out of the oven. I mean, literally, they are just out of the oven. And I want to show you this really quickly before they start to cool. So you just want there to be just, you see that? Just a little teeny weeny jiggle. Just a little jiggle. That way you don't overbake it. If you overbake it, it'll start to crack. So just, now actually, as I thought, the gluten-free when baked 45 minutes. The conventional wheat when baked, about 52 minutes. So I thought the gluten-free one would take the shortest amount of time versus the other one would take. And why that is, I'm not entirely sure. But I've baked gluten-free enough to know it always bakes up a lot faster. So they both bake at the same temperature, but just the gluten-free one is done faster than the other. Now, how you eat these delicious pies? Well, I would eat it however you eat cheesecake, not necessarily like pie. I don't think anybody eat warm cheesecake. I don't care for warm cheesecake. Do you like warm cheesecake? Leave a comment and let me know if you like warm cheesecake. I do not. I think cheesecake should either be cold or room temperature. However, since I do not like cold pies, I think I would eat this at a cool room temperature. But however you eat it, I hope you will give this recipe a try and let me know what you think. The recipe will be in the description box below as usual. And I hope you will subscribe to my channel if you haven't already subscribed, because I will be sharing more pie, a new take on classic pie traditional recipes. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss out anytime I upload a video or a short for that matter. So get into the kitchen and start baking. There is no need to buy sad frozen pies. Please, you can make your own pie. And you know what I always say, it doesn't have to be gorgeous. It doesn't have to look perfect. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't look perfect. My pies don't look perfect, and I'm perfectly happy with that because they are homemade. If you produce homemade perfect pies, which I do try to aim for that, because when you're doing, you're putting out food as a caterer, everything must be identical, equally sized, beautiful, all those things. But that doesn't have to be all the time. When we're baking at home, we can have a pie that's not just like tippy-toppy perfect all the time. But however you choose to bake your pies, if you make them from scratch at home with love in your own kitchen, you know it is going to be good. So, the good Lord willing, I will see you guys again in the next pie episode. In the meantime, take care, y'all. Bye.